Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today's video is the third in the series on learning and evolving from past practitioners, and we will talk about Guo Yunshen. I'm neither a part of the Guo Yunshen lineage, nor have I practiced Guo Yunshen's branch of Xing Yi. Regardless, his contributions to Xing Yi have influenced the practitioners well beyond his own lineage and are considered an inseparable part of Xing Yi today, no matter what branch. That's why he deserves our attention. Topics covered in today's video include: first, introduce to Guo Yunshen. Second, Guo Yunshen's contribution to Xing Yi. Third, Guo Yunshen's life lessons. Fourth, limitation and further development. Fifth, demonstration. And sixth, takeaways. I hope this video will be as interesting as Guo Yunshen himself. So, without any further ado, let's get started. First, introduction to Guo Yunshen. If you practice Xing Yi, you may already know about him. If not, let's change that today. Guo Yunshen was born in 1820 and passed away in 1900. He was born and raised in Shenzhou, Hebei province, about 200 kilometers from Tianjin. He studied long fist from Feng Yuzhang, Bajiquan from Feng Tingli. Feng Yuzhang and Sun Tingli were popular martial art teachers back then in that region. After years of practice, Guo Yunshen became very skilled at Bajiquan, a popular martial art style in the north of China. There have been a lot of great martial art practitioners in history that practiced Bajiquan. After he mastered Baji, his Baji teacher Sun Tingli introduced him to Li Luoneng, the founder of Xing Yi. From then on, he learned Xing Yi from Li Luoneng and eventually became one of the most important figures in the Hebei style of Xing Yi. Just like Yang Luchan, the founder of Yang style taichi, who taught taichi to the prince of the Qing dynasty in Beijing, Guo Yunshen was said to have worked in Beijing and taught some Qing government officials. According to a popular legend about him and Dong Haichuan, the founder of bagua, was that they met each other in Beijing. After exchanging their practice, they realized that practitioners from both schools could benefit themselves by learning from each other. That's why, whenever possible, a Xing Yi practitioner would practice some bagua and vice versa. To make that story better, some people said Yang Luchan into this event in order to promote the concept that practitioners from three internal styles should practice more than one style. But let's get back to reality. How many people back then had the time and the resources to practice all the three styles? Well, not many. Simply because it was very hard in those days to practice more than one style due to lack of resources. I believe that Guo Yunshen might have met Dong Haichuan in Beijing and decided to recommend their students learn some of the practice of each other's style. To me, it's just a metaphor to demonstrate that Xing Yi and bagua have a lot of commonality and the practitioners should be open-minded in learning. Like all of us, Guo Yunshen also went through life-changing events. Let's talk about one of those. Sometime after working in Beijing, he began working for the local government in Zhending County, Hebei province. During that time, he taught Qian Yan Tang, son of Qian Xicai, a Qing government official and also the direct supervisor of Guo Yunshen. In Zhending city, there was the Wu Ju by the name Dou Xianjun. Wu Ju used to be a title in the ancient government system and can be translated as military candidate successful in the imperial provincial examination. Very often, people passed this kind of examination, and who could receive this title must have gone through a very formal selection process. Some basic skills including archery, weapon, weightlifting, and so on. This system lasted for about more than 1,300 years, and there were about 500 times the national level of official examinations. So Dou Xianjun, a Wu Ju in the Qing dynasty, had to be a well-trained martial artist. As Wu Ju, Dou Xianjun had a lot of influence in his hometown, and due to his arrogance and bullying nature, Guo Yunshen had a fight with him. It is said that Guo killed him with a sword in a weapon battle. As a consequence, Guo was sentenced to prison for about 3 years. Since he worked directly under Qian Xicai, the highest Qing dynasty official in that region, he was imprisoned for only 3 years. Or else, he would have been sentenced to death for killing a Wu Ju. So, that's the popular version about why he went to prison. Another version is close to this one, but a little bit different. The Wu Ju was a powerful person in his hometown. In addition, he had some contact in the royal court of the Qing dynasty. As a result, Dou Xianjun did not even respect Qian Xicai, the highest ranked government official in Zhending County. For example, he forced Qian Xicai, or the government official, to sell some land at a very low price. Of course, the government official, who was Guo Yunshen's direct supervisor, was not happy with this transaction, but he was helpless. Guo acknowledged this situation. So, one day, he challenged Dou Xianjun and killed him. Since he killed Wu Ju for the benefit of the top-ranking government official, he was only sentenced to 3 years in prison. The Chinese legal system back then was very flexible, and who knows, maybe it even today. So, why am I talking about this? Well, his imprisonment ended up changing his practice, which directly influenced the xingyi practice of subsequent generations. According to the Qing dynasty legal system, some prisoners had to wear jiaoliao, or fetters, a very heavy chain or shackle around the ankles. Guo Yunshen was one of them. Now, before we discuss the effect of this event on xingyi, let us first talk about the xingyi practice that existed before this event. Li Luoneng, the founder of xingyi, taught 8 female students who were considered the 2nd generation of the xingyi, or the 4th generation of xingyi disciples. Li Luoneng's Bengquan, the wood element fist, used a different stepping pattern compared to what we see today. It was very close to the stepping pattern of Piquan, the metal fist, in which the punching fist and the forward stepping foot are the same side. To be clear, when the right fist punches forward, the right foot steps forward. Similarly, if the left fist punches forward, the left foot steps forward. No exceptions. Nowadays, this stepping pattern is called 顺步 Bengquan, or smooth stepping Beng-Quan. Now, let's get back to Guo Yunshen's prison life. In the old Chinese prisons, the prison cells used to be very small. The limitation in space means Guo could not practice xingyi as originally intended. More importantly, the short length of the heavy fetters around his ankles did not allow him to practice the original Beng-Quan stepping pattern. As a result, he could only move half a step with his front foot, and his back foot could only follow the front foot. So, during the 3 years of his imprisonment, he could only practice this type of stepping, and the most suitable hand movement for such a stepping pattern was Beng-Quan or wood element fist. After he finished his prison sentence, his unique Beng-Quan practice became his stunt, or 绝技 in Chinese. In the martial art community, people started calling this type of Beng-Quan as 半步 Beng-Quan, or half-stepping wood fist, a unique xingyi stepping pattern created in a prison cell to compensate for limited space and the fetters around the ankles. In Xing Yi community, when talking about Guo Yunshen, people always use the expression 半步 Beng-Quan 打天下, fight the world with half-stepping Beng-Quan. Furthermore, many Xingyi practitioners at his time and almost all of the Xingyi practitioners after him adopted his Beng-Quan stepping pattern. If you practice Xingyi with such stepping, you should thank Guo Yunshen for it. Topic 2. Guo Yunshen's contribution to Xingyi. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Guo Yunshen, being a member of the second generation of Xingyi, is an important name to anyone who practiced Xingyi. Besides the unique characteristics of his own style, there are 2 other reasons why he is of historical importance. First, he created the 半步 Beng-Quan, or half-stepping wood element fist. It would be a big mistake to consider 半步 Beng-Quan as simply Beng-Quan. In my opinion, as well as those of many other experts, 半步 Beng-Quan incorporates all other elements in addition to Beng. His Beng-Quan stepping is an entirely new way of stepping in Chinese internal style martial art practice. If we look at the typical stepping pattern used in Chinese Kung Fu, this type of stepping is not that common. At the very least, I can say that in Chinese martial art stepping, there were no such method or patterns commonly used. The reason is very simple. Traditionally, Chinese martial art practice was developed in the battlefield with weapon training. The stepping method used in the field for using weapons was not required to be as dynamic as that for bare hand practice. As a result, Chinese bare hand practice lacked a fast stepping training method. Among the 3 internal styles, we can notice this by observing a typical taichi practice, wherein the stepping is not as developed as the bagua or xingyi. Of course, one may say that bagua also has a fast stepping method. Well, I totally disagree. Now, I may go off on a tangent for a bit, but let me use this opportunity to clarify the differences between walking and stepping, because I think it is critical for the community to know this. The objective of stepping is to generate and transfer power from the foot to other parts of the body. To achieve good stepping, you need good martial coordination while walking. In bagua, the skill comes from walking, but the power comes from stepping. Sure, bagua practitioners can walk fast in practice, but bagua stepping is not as powerful as xingyi. Guo Yunshen's stepping method is optimized for power generation. As a result, generally speaking, bagua practitioners cannot practice fajin as effectively and efficient as xingyi practitioners. I can't emphasize this enough. Xingyi as a style really improved in efficiency and effectiveness due to Guo Yunshen's creation of the 半步崩拳. Second, Guo Yunshen developed and enriched some very important theoretical aspects of xingyi. Some topics such as three types of power, or Ming, An, Hua, which I introduced in my prior videos before. Please have a look if you haven't already. Link is in the description. He also developed the three-level practice concept as 一骨一筋洗髓, or changing the bone, changing the tendon, and washing the bone marrow. Furthermore, he developed the concept which connected internal self-martial art practice with Taoist energy practice, called three-level principle, or 三层道理 in Mandarin. Those are 炼精化气, 炼气化神, 炼神还虚, or refined essence into energy, refined energy to spirit, refined spirit into emptiness. Although there is no specific practice procedure of this concept introduced by him, it can be considered as the principal guidance of pursuing different benefits by practicing the internal styles of martial arts, which was very advanced back then given the limited knowledge of the martial community. We have to analyze a phenomenon by taking the historical background into consideration when appreciating a historical figure. These are some specific topics, and I may find an opportunity to introduce them in the future, but not in this video, or the time will run out. To summarize, Guo Yunshen has contributed not only to xingyi but also to overall Chinese martial art theory, and that is why he is a noteworthy historical figure in the Chinese martial art community. To the best of my knowledge, there exists only one photography of Guo Yunshen. I believe many xingyi practitioners have seen this photo before. It was taken when Guo Yunshen visited his Kung Fu brother Che Yizhai, another great xingyi master, in Shanxi province. And the one sitting on the right side is Guo Yunshen, and the one sitting on the left side is Che Yizhai, another great xingyi master in Shanxi province. This photo was kept by Fan Ruifeng in Tianjin. Fan Ruifeng was the son of the Fan Yongqing, a disciple of the Che Yizhai. He was one using the saber on the right side of the photo. His son moved to Tianjin from Shanxi province after he passed away. Fan Ruifeng was a great xingyi teacher in Tianjin back in the 1950s and 1960s. His grandson was my classmate at the university. I didn't know this in the beginning, but one day he told me his later grandfather was a Fan Ruifeng. Imagine my surprise. And later, I went to his home to talk to his grandmother, the wife of Fan Ruifeng. She told me some interesting stories about her husband. They also showed me some training manuals written by him and some martial art weapons left by him. So, if you see this photo again in the future, you will know that this photo was kept by the son of the martial arts who wore the white shirt while using a saber in this photo. Topic 3. Guo Yunshen's life lessons. His interesting life story can help us understand some important issues. I'd like to explain this topic based on the following points. First, do not interpret his half-step-Beng-Quan as merely a variation of a Beng-Quan practice. Very often, people look for a special technique that potentially makes it a secret practice or stunt. I have to say such a technique does not exist. Then you may ask, how did Guo Yunshen's half-stepping-Beng-Fist become his stunt? Let me answer that now. Guo Yunshen was famous for his Beng-Quan skill. However, it didn't mean that he only used Beng-Quan exclusively. Instead, he integrated many other techniques through practice into his half-step Beng-Quan. He adapted his practice to a specific situation in order to integrate other practice into a few movements. That is the spirit of his half-step Beng-Quan. Therefore, please do not try to understand his famous 半步 Beng-Quan as merely a wood fist with a half-stepping footwork, or it will limit your understanding of his practice. Any practice eventually is the process of integration of many techniques, and eventually it will become the stunt. Second, a martial artist should be able to adjust their practice according to different factors, both internal and external to oneself. Based on my not teaching experience, it is very hard to find two persons with the same body shape. It is even more difficult to find two people with the same martial expression. At the high level, martial art practice is a way to express your own understanding of a style, which can be very challenging to replicate by another person. So, any two people with different body shapes and different martial expressions will never end up with identical practice. Unless, of course, they are artificially created xingyi robots. Therefore, my advice to a martial art teacher is to adjust the practice according to your student's body shape and other factors. It is more important to grasp the spirit of a movement than to just copy the movement without understanding the application of the movement. At the same time, as a martial art practitioner, you should be able to adjust your own approach in line with your practice goals. Guo Yunshen's half-step Beng-Quan is a perfect example of this concept. To summarize, Guo Yunshen's success story tells us that in practice, the real stunt is the practice which can integrate many techniques into a few simple movements and be able to apply it in dealing with many different situations. Also, you should adjust your practice to suit the situation, including body shape, practice approach, as well as personality and attitude along others. Topic 4. Limitations and further development. Guo Yunshen's martial art background was Changquan and Bajiquan. Not only that, his Bajiquan practice was expert level. Then he switched to Xingyi Quan after meeting Li Luoneng. Maybe he realized that Xingyi was more suitable to him. However, his system still has some Baji flavor, which to himself is not a negative element at all, but Technically speaking, such an approach often leads to a lack of flexibility or some other internal elements in practice. However, Sun Lutang, who studied under Guo Yunshen's students Li Kuiyuan, also got the opportunity to receive some guidance from Guo Yunshen directly. Later on, Sun Lutang modified the practice, which he learned from his teacher and his grandteacher. I believe that Sun Lutang's work is an improvement based on Guo Yunshen's teaching, since Sun Lutang adjusts his own practice according to some factors like his physical structure and the practice goals. Nowadays, it is very hard to tell that Sun's practice was derived from Guo Yunshen's school, but in reality, Sun's practice can be traced back to Guo Yunshen's style. So, if you ask me which style I prefer, I would say that I prefer Guo's strong Fajin exercise, but I also really appreciate Sun's fluidity. So basically, Sun Lutang's style was developed based on Guo Yunshen's practice. However, Sun Lutang's xingyi was dramatically different from Guo Yunshen's practice. Based on my research, I think at least a few factors contributed towards this difference. Let me explain those. First, Sun Lutang studied all the three internal styles, which made his practice more internal in nature than Guo's practice. Even though the legend existed about practitioners studied both xingyi and bagua, the unfortunate reality was that most martial artists did not have the opportunities and resources to practice more than one style back then. However, Sun Lutang was lucky enough to practice all the three styles. Of course, more than luck, it was his determination. Second, Guo Yunshen was trained in the external style before learning xingyi. More importantly, he was an expert Baji Quan practitioner already. Guo Yunshen practiced Baji, a typical hard style in terms of power and body structure, which had a major impact on his xingyi practice. But Sun Lutang practiced the Shaolin for only a very short period of time in his hometown. In any martial art practice, any prior practice can have a significant influence on subsequent practice. Third, Sun Lutang and Guo Yunshen lived during different times with some overlap. Guo Yunshen was the second generation of the xingyi, a period during which xingyi experienced rapid development. Later on, during Sun Lutang's time, xingyi became much more developed due to many social factors. For example, people started looking for health benefits of martial arts in addition to self-defense skills. Therefore, even though Sun Lutang was the martial descendant of Guo Yunshen, you should not try to perceive Guo Yunshen's practice based on Sun Lutang's practice. They are different already. If you want to watch some demonstrations of Guo Yunshen's original practice, I recommend looking for practitioners from his hometown, Shenzhou. There are quite a few good practitioners over there. Even today, I know some good teachers in that area. I will interview some of them in the future so that you can get a better idea of Guo Yunshen's practice. Topic 5. Demonstration. Today, I'd like to show you some different variations of Beng Quan or wood face practice from my previous video clips. Originally, I even wanted to demonstrate an application of the half-step-Beng-Quan with a student of mine. As all of you know that we are still in the lockdown period and I cannot demonstrate this practice in my living room. By the way, it is about -10 outside and the height of the snow in my backyard is about 2 feet. We have been very lucky this winter in Quebec since we have not had any major snowstorm yet. So this is the Bengquan demonstration in a comparatively slow motion speed. Next video will show some variations of Bengquan. They are in Chinese, but you can see the different type of Bengquan. 是进退Bengquan，进退Bengquan是这样子的，你看它是讲进退，比如说前脚退后手出，这是进，然后呢跳出去再打，这进退Bengquan。进退Bengquan步子是大步，是宽步，你看是宽步子的进退Bengquan。但是你看以进退为主，和腰部Bengquan，比如说转，你看都可以，都是Bengquan的不同练功方式。但是最关键。Next one is taken from one of my old videos. This is an application of a half-step Bengquan. Topic 6. Takeaways. First, who was Guo Yunshen? Guo Yunshen was the representative master of the second generation of Xing Yi practitioners. He was one of the 8 disciples of Li Luoneng. People call the style taught by him Guo style Xingyi, a branch of Hebei style Xingyi. Second, why is he important in Xingyi history? He created the half-step Bengquan in practice, which is used by almost all Xingyi practitioners today. He also created some of the important Xingyi theories. 3. Life lessons learned from Guo Yunshen. Do not merely limit yourself to prior practice. Try to integrate other practice into your practice. Also, adjust your practice based on your physical and mental conditions as well as your surroundings. 4. Limitations and further development. Guo Yunshen's practice was particularly influenced by his prior Bajiquan practice, which may limit flexibility. However, his martial descendants like Sun Lutang made the practice more fluid by incorporating elements of other internal styles. So that's end today's video. Thanks for watching. See you next time and enjoy your practice.